Hey guys, coming at you today with an oh so delicious keto chocolate cake recipe with delicious whipped ganache filling and a silky smooth ganache coating. My mom requested it for her birthday, so let's get started. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alicia and I'm a sous chef with a sweet tooth. And here we make delicious pastries, many from my time as a pastry chef. My goal is to make the best keto desserts possible. If you enjoy this content, hit the subscribe button down there. I'm coming at you every Saturday with new keto desserts. This was inspired by something I used to eat at my first job at Bob Evans. I remember this cake. I would eat it for my staff meal. That would be what I paid for my meal. It was amazing. I could not find a picture of it, which really made me upset because I wanted to recreate it exactly. But I found the nutrition facts and it was called Bob Evans Hershey's Hot Fudge Cake. And I remember it being 3 layers with like a ganache filling and ganache coating on top for one of these slices, which is double the amount that we're gonna eat for our slice. But it was 103 net carbs. Crazy. And I used to eat this as a meal warmed up with ice cream and whipped cream. You can see I was addicted to sugar even back then, but I figured out a low carb version of it and it is delicious. And I tested it and I took my test batch to my mom's for Mother's Day and she actually loved it so much. She said, don't change a thing. And then I said, do you need a keto cake for your birthday? She said, yeah, can you make me this one? I already have all my dry ingredients weighed out here. As per usual, they're sifted and I'm giving them a good whisk. Now to make this chocolate, it is basically my Lancaster sour milk cake, but made chocolate. And I tried just adding cocoa powder to the mix and it did not get chocolatey enough. It was very bland tasting. So I'm like, hey, I have Chocolate Whey Protein Isolate in my cupboard. I used this Perfect Keto. It is much more expensive than the ISOpure, and I did do a test with the ISOpure. I have a cookies and cream, and it worked out. So I'm gonna link that below, because if I did have it, I would use that. The Perfect Keto is a little bit higher in net carb, so if you use the ISOpure, this will be a little bit less. There's a lot of dry ingredients, so make sure they're really whisked up. I did put a little bit of espresso powder in here too, but that's optional. Bring out the chocolate flavor a little bit. And you'll notice I have all my Amazon affiliate links down there, but I do not have coconut flour because I found the best deal on coconut flour is at Walmart. 2 pounds, 4 ounces for $5. And I like the consistency of this. You can't really find a better deal than that. So that's why I only put down things I actually buy on Amazon that I can't find in stores. Now that those are all mixed up, we can get on to our wet ingredients. I have my eggs soaking in warm water because I pulled them out only about an hour ago. I already made my buttermilk out of macadamia nut milk. I found out that if you're allergic to nuts, macadamia nuts are technically seeds and they can be eaten. So this is being taken over to my mom's house, so it needs to be nut free. We got 5 eggs. We're gonna beat those, stream in our butter and our buttermilk, exactly like the Lancaster sour milk cake. The only difference with this is I upped the butter because cocoa powder can be really drying and I didn't want a dry chocolate cake. This one is not crumbly, super moist and delicious. Everything's well incorporated. I already have my 2 pans lined with parchment paper. I'm gonna weigh out my layers so that I don't have to eyeball anything. The easiest way. Each one is about 570 grams, so have that ready to go. And these are 8-inch rounds. This will just give you a bigger layer. You can do 9-inch rounds also. Okay, all at once, dry into the wet, and whisk them up. Okay, looks good. Made a mess this time. Things always are messier when you have the cameras rolling. Now take my offset spatula, get this all smoothed out. Okay, once they're nice and smooth and even, I do like to clean off any excess because that'll just burn For once, I already preheated my oven to 350 degrees. These are gonna bake a little bit longer than the vanilla cakes. You can't tell with a toothpick if these are done because you can see how thick they are. They're not gonna be gooey. So what I do is I just press down on them gently and make sure they're firm and they don't have any give to them in the middle of the cakes. And that's when you know they're done. But they're gonna be going in for about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on your oven. I set my timer for 15 minutes. I am gonna rotate and turn those halfway through. Now, at this point, while your cakes are baking, is when you can make your ganache, but you need it completely set. So either you make it now and put it in the refrigerator and just keep checking on it to make sure it's just solid and not like really rock hard. But you can make this days in advance. In the pastry shop, we would have just bowls of ganache sitting on a rack, some whipped, some not, for cake filling or pouring over cake. I made mine 2 days ago and just let it sit at room temperature, and it works awesome just having it ready to go. It'll stay good for a couple of days at least on your countertop. Ganache is by weight. So it's 12 ounces of chocolate chips to 12 ounces of heavy cream. About a cup of chocolate chips is 6 ounces. So 2 cups of chocolate chips and then 12 ounces of cream. Let cool to about room temperature, and then you can cover with plastic wrap and let it sit out. So that's what I did here. It's gonna be all ready to go when our cakes are out of the oven and completely cooled. Okay, I pulled my cakes out at 26 minutes. You can tell when like the edge is done. The center should feel the same way. So these are gonna cool until I can touch them, and then I'm just gonna run my offset spatula around and pop them out and let them cool completely. Cakes are cooled. I'm just gonna slice each one of these in half. We are only gonna use 3 layers of this cake, because that's what I remember the Bob Evans hot fudge cake being. The other layer you can just save in the freezer for another project or for cake pops, or you can just snack on it. It'd be delicious. Even just by itself. Back on your rack. My cakes stay together pretty well because of the xanthan gum. So you don't have to worry too much about them cracking and falling apart on you, which is nice. Just like regular cake. I'm gonna place this one right onto our plate. The wheel is completely optional, but I do have the link down below. I got this with a bunch of different things with it for super cheap. If you have these drawer liner things, they help a lot with things sliding. I didn't think about that last time, and my cake was sliding all over the place. So this works good to keep your cake from sliding around. Now onto our ganache. I'm gonna take my hand mixer just because I feel like it's easier than using a stand mixer because you can't get down to the bottom and scrape easily. This may be a little bit hard in the beginning, but the only reason I like this hand mixer is because it's really powerful. Otherwise, I don't use it for anything. It's insane for mixing anything powdery or liquidy. So you're just gonna whip this until it's super fluffy. Scrape down your bowl a couple of times. Get all of the ganache incorporated and whipped up. This is for those people that don't like a lot of powdered monk fruit erythritol blend, like my mom. That's why she loved this cake so much. This is just a silky smooth, chocolatey filling and frosting. As you whip, it'll get lighter and lighter in color. You want it just spreadable. So it's almost there. We just got to get that little bit more incorporated. Oh, and then it's time to fill our cake. Oh, this stuff looks so silky smooth and delicious. Keep that handy because you might need to re-whip. This does harden after it sits for a minute. Now, a good way to get even layers in your cakes is to use a portion scoop. I didn't even think about this the last time when I did the Lancaster sour milk cake, but it definitely helps get yourself even layers. And for the 3rd time in this recipe, mini offset spatula. You can use bigger ones, and I do have multiple size bigger ones, but you can pretty much do everything with a small one. That's why I say it's such a handy tool to have in the kitchen. Spread it out evenly. You can go right to the edge because the outside is getting crumb coated with this frosting. There you go. Cover with another layer of cake. Another layer of frosting. Looks good. And then your last layer, all nice and even. And then you're just gonna do a crumb coat. Do 1 scoop of frosting on top and just do a thin layer all the way around. You don't need hardly any because we are gonna enrobe this in a semi-sweet chocolate ganache. Try not to get crumbs in this because you're gonna use that to decorate. You do wanna make it all nice and smooth because you're just draping chocolate over this. Go. Thin layer all the way around. We just gotta let this set while we make. Our ganache is gonna go on top. Don't waste any of your ganache. We're gonna use it, and it's all counted in our macros. Okay, now onto the ganache to cover over this delicious cake. I weighed out 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips. It's about a cup, and 6 ounces of heavy cream. We're just gonna let this come to a bubble, little simmer around the edge, and some steam coming up. Not letting it sit too long, because I found out most ganaches you let sit for about 15 minutes before you start covering a cake, but our chocolate chips get really thick at a low temperature. So we do not need to let this sit for very long before we cover our cake with it. Biggest thing is to make sure your chocolate chips are completely submerged in your heavy cream. You let it sit for 5 minutes before you even touch it, otherwise all your chips aren't going to melt. While that's sitting, I'm just gonna clean off the edges of my plate. After this, we're not gonna touch it at all, so we don't want crumbs that we can't get off when we have the nice layer of ganache on there. We will actually be enjoying this cake on my mom's birthday when this video airs. So wish my mom a happy birthday, because this is her birthday cake and we'll be enjoying it that day. Okay, it's been sitting for about 5 minutes. You slowly start whisking in the middle. Apparently I was talking a little bit longer than I thought, so I was going by the time on my camera, but guess it needed more time. So if this happens, 50% power for like 10-15 seconds. Now most of the chips are all melted. You want it around 100 degrees to pour. We're at 98. So once all the chips are melted, we're gonna pour this baby. I always figures I do it perfect on the test and then I go and shoot it and don't do it right. That looks good now. There's no clumps left. Okay, now it's time to pour. Pour right in the center. Oh, and then of course a train. Oh well. You probably are not gonna need all your ganache. Just slowly start working it around. Start dripping down the sides. You want it all nice and flat and even on top, and then you can go around the sides and spread out your ganache. Will set up pretty quickly though. Bring it down to the sides. You can just let it also be dripped. Keep going around. If you don't have extra ganache in one area, you probably have it in another. There you go. I'm all completely coated. Once you get the top situated, you probably don't want to touch it too much. Like that. All looks good. Now I'm gonna pop this in the fridge to set up completely before we decorate. And we have all this ganache left, so I'm gonna add it to my whipped ganache and whip this up with it. So you just want this to set up, so just spread it out thin, pop it in the refrigerator to let it set up all the way. Apparently it's train day, jeez. So I'm gonna pop both these in the fridge for now, and we'll get back to decorate in, it only takes about 10 minutes or so for all this stuff to set up. And then of course I can't slice into it, but I have a slice from my test cake, so we'll be tasting that one. Okay, it's time to decorate. So I have my ganache here that's pretty much set. I'm gonna re-whip and fill a pastry bag with, this is a star tip that makes rosettes, and a piping bag with a writing tip so that I can write happy birthday on there. Whip this until it's nice and fluffy. Then scrape down a few times. We're gonna divide this into 14 pieces. Very rich, decadent. And with 14 slices, it is only 4 grams of net carbs. So I'm gonna do a rosette there, then straight across from it, another rosette. And then you gotta divide the middle piece into 2. And then put 2 more in between that. There's your 8 pieces. And then you're gonna do another 6 over here. Now I gotta try to write happy birthday in there. That's gonna be fun. This is pretty much the exact kind of cake we'd have at the pastry shop I worked at. And we would write on cakes with like this big of a spot to write, but we would use melted chocolate, which is a lot easier to write small with. I think we'll be fine without re-whipping this. Put it in your bag. Okay, happy birthday. I got the happy. Let's retry that. There we go. This is going in the refrigerator. I can use this frosting also to make a border around the bottom edge. I do have a slice of the cake from the test batch that I did. It is super moist and delicious, but I'm gonna show you how I used to eat it at Bob Evans. See, the ganache melts and the inside melts. Oh, it looks so good. Can't wait to dig in. This looks so amazingly delicious. Some of that melty. Oh my god. My cake is so soft and moist and delicious. It's like not super sweet because we're using dark chocolate and the semi-sweet. This brought me back to my breaks at Bob Evans. It is like spot on what I remember, and it is only 4 grams of net carbs. This can stay out on your countertop, but after a couple of days I would pop it into the refrigerator, but definitely heat it up. And it doesn't look as pretty, but it is amazing. Oh my god, I want to eat all that. I may after the camera stops. I hope you guys enjoy this video. This recipe is by far my favorite and my mom's favorite as of right now. It is so freaking good. And I'm making her some special ice cream to go along with this, so you'll probably see that video next week. Don't forget to check out my Amazon links below. It's only stuff that I actually have bought and will buy again on Amazon. So if you would like to support my channel, you can click those links and I'll get a small fraction of the sale. If you enjoy this content, please hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up. And as always, I'll be back with many more keto dessert recipes. Bye guys.